In the course of 12 hours, I missed my first flight ever, only to later find out that the event was canceled. I received a concerning phone call from a doctor about a test result. I also watched the stock market take a little tumble. And yet here I am, practicing relaxing during uncertain times, because that's when we need it the most. And in preparing for this podcast, I went to look for some quotes that would be fitting. And I actually found several. And so I thought, I'm just going to include all of them. Emmett Ray said, if you want to conquer the anxiety of life, live in the moment, live in the breath. Eckhart Tolle said, life isn't as serious as the mind makes it out to be. And then there's a Chinese proverb that says, tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are. Bonjour, and welcome to the French Kiss Live podcast, where personal development meets style. I'm Tanya Lee, certified master life coach and the hostess of this party, where we explore how to live artfully and well. Each week, I'll be sharing inspiring stories, practical tips, and timeless wisdom on how to elevate the quality of your everyday and celebrate along the way. Let's dive into today's episode. Well, hello, my friends. How are you feeling right now? If you're like a lot of people, you're probably feeling a lot of anxiety, stress, fear, worry, concern. I'm actually recording this on March the 12th, which is the day that I will mark down as the highest level of collective anxiety that I have ever experienced. And I've been getting so many messages from many of you asking me, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with the uncertainty? How do I deal with the fear and the worry and the stress that's happening in my body right now? And so I wanted to do this episode to share with you how I'm dealing with it in hopes that it will offer you some kind of insight or support to help you navigate these times that we're in. It is time for a community spotlight, the part of the show where I get to highlight someone in the community who has benefited from the French Kiss lifestyle. And today's spotlight is on Evelyn, 2002. She wrote a 5-star review on iTunes that reads, life-changing. Here's what she said. 6 months ago, I moved from Europe to Alaska for love, and I've been struggling pretty much from day one with changes in culture and lifestyle. Even though I'm a firm believer that you attract what you think of the most, I lost my way here and I almost didn't recognize the person I had become anymore. A few months ago, I stumbled upon Tanya on Instagram, and her message there reminded me of the person I was before, a person who loved and enjoyed life, who seized every day. And through her guidance on the podcast, her social platforms, and soon to be Slim Chic and Savvy, I am back on track, finding my joy in everyday little things, being feminine and sensual, even just for my 3 doggies in the cabin, reading and exploring the world through educational online courses. I took control back. It doesn't matter where I live. I'm the one shaping my reality, not my surroundings. Tanya reminded me of that. And now I'm really looking forward to this new chapter in my life because I know that I have a friend and a guide in Tanya to help me expand and grow even further to the person I always knew I could be. Evelyn, thank you so much for that beautiful review. And did you know that I live in a cabin with my 3 doggies up in the woods? We should start like a support group for those of us who are living in cabins and French kissing life. But no, I hear you. I do. And it's really interesting because I've been thinking about where is next for me. And one of the things that I'm really practicing is not leaving until I'm happy. Because wherever you go, there you are, right? And so I believe that we really need to practice blooming wherever we're planted. And that doesn't mean we can't move and explore and try new things, but it's that perpetual feeling of always thinking that over there is better, over there in the city or over there. For some people, it's over there in the cabin, right? It's like we all sit around wishing for each other's lives instead of really just looking at our own and making the best of it. There's a beautiful quote by Rumi that says, wherever you are, be the soul of that place. And that's what I want for all of us. Like wherever we are in this moment, to be the soul of it, to make the best of it, to maximize it, because I really believe that's how we get to where we really want to be. And we have a blast doing it because we don't live in this illusion that over there is better. Like really think about it. If you can find joy and happiness in a cabin in Alaska with your 3 doggies and the love of your life, you can be happy anywhere. I think this is great news. So again, thank you for the review. And hey, listen, if you enjoy this podcast, I want to hear from you. Please leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you can leave a review and let me know. And maybe I will feature you in an upcoming community spotlight. Let's talk about relaxing during uncertain times. It's difficult, you all. I feel like I've been prepping for this podcast for the last 4 years because I've been dealing with so many challenges. It started with Sarah's health, and then my dad became sick, and now we're facing this coronavirus, and the markets are crazy, and it's just insane, the energy of the world right now. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to say, oh, we should all just be relaxed. Everything is okay, because the truth is, a lot of us are feeling the anxiety. We're feeling the worry. We're feeling the fear. And so I want to offer you how I'm dealing with it. I want to offer with you things that have helped me over the last 4 years tap into my parasympathetic nervous system. I was actually talking with a dear friend of mine, Dr. Geetha Arora, a few months ago, and she said, Tani, you do realize that your work is all about parasympathetic training. And of course, the nurse within me really geeked out on that. I was like, well, that's sexy. But it's true. And I can see how that works. When I'm coaching clients, or even if I'm with a group of friends and I say something like, what's the hurry? What's the worst thing that could happen? What if it's all happening the way it's supposed to? Just those little phrases that I drop here and there, I can just feel the energy just relax. And I want to share with you why it's so important to tap into our parasympathetic nervous system. So when it comes to our nervous system, we have our sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight part of our nervous system. And the really interesting thing with the sympathetic nervous system is that it doesn't know real from imagined. So you can sit at home and be thinking about and visualizing the worst things that can happen, and it doesn't know the difference between that and you being chased by a bear. It just is noticing danger, danger, danger. We need to run. We need to get out of here. And as a result, we start pumping cortisol throughout our bodies. We start to burn our adrenals out if we're living in that sympathetic state for extended periods of time. And a lot of people are living in their sympathetic state most of the time, even before this happened. And now you throw on all of this global uncertainty, and the majority of people are in their sympathetic nervous system. And the issue with that is that when you're in your sympathetic nervous system most of the time, you're not digesting your foods well. Your immune system is not working at its optimal levels. You're literally exhausting yourself, which, if you think about in the bigger picture, especially with us dealing with this unknown virus, you make yourself more susceptible to being sick. Literally, stress can kill you. And that is why it is so important that we learn to relax, especially during the most difficult times. And you all, I understand that this is challenging. Again, I feel like I've been preparing for this podcast for 4 years now. When my daughter got sick, gosh, it's hard to believe it's been like 4 years ago. I remember just having these terrible visions in my head. And it felt like I was nervous all of the time. I was having anxiety. I wasn't sleeping. I was literally staying up until like 4 a.m. doing research and trying to figure out how to fix the problem. And I started to notice what was happening with my body. I was starting to break down and I was like, okay, enough is enough. And that's when I started meditating. It's when I started to really work on my own mind. And I've always done thought work. I've always understood the power of thoughts. But you know what? That's easy to work on when things are going relatively okay. But when you get bad news or something tragic happens or you're facing so much uncertainty, it's a lot harder. But that's when we need to be doing it the most. And so for me, that became my practice of just dumping out what's in my brain. And then I was like, well, of course I'm anxious. Look at like the nightmarish story I'm telling myself, right? And I really started to do this deep parasympathetic training. And it's not to say I don't have anxiety today, because even today I've had it. I've been getting messages from people who have it, and we can take on other people's energy because we start matching our thoughts to their thoughts. But I know I have this work that I can fall back on. And so I do over and over again. And so I'm really able to witness myself more than ever. And I think that's the secret, being able to watch yourself instead of jumping in the trenches with yourself. But let me tell you why parasympathetic training is so important on a biological level. You see, when you're in sympathetic, if you think about it, your body's preparing to run. And so it's shunting all of the blood away from your major organs to your limbs, your heart and your limbs, so that you can run and get away. So you're not able, again, to digest your foods. Everything's constricted. It's why we have high blood pressure. But the moment you tap into your parasympathetic nervous system, you begin to relax. You expand. You're more open. Your heart rate goes down. Your blood pressure goes down. And on a biochemical level, you start producing hormones that are actually really good for your immune system. I've read so many studies on this, so I'm going to spare you all of the details. I'm just giving you sort of an overview of what happens in your body. And the beauty is that no matter what is happening outside of us, we can do this parasympathetic training. We can learn and practice relaxing even in the most difficult of times. I feel like this is the time to practice, because if we can practice it now, imagine when this passes, because it is going to pass. Nothing lasts forever. We're going to be so much better at handling the day-to-day stuff that typically stresses us out. So I'm just going to, again, share with you what I'm doing and what works well for me. Feel free to use it. I encourage you to practice it, try it, see if it works for you. But these are the practices that I'm using in my daily life just to help me relax so that I am healthy, so that I'm not reacting out of fear, and so that I can still find the joy in the everyday. So here's the first one that I want to share with you. Don't fight what you're feeling. This is what I see a lot of us do. We start to feel anxious or afraid or worried, and then all of a sudden we start fighting that feeling because it's so uncomfortable. We're like, oh, I don't need to feel this. I don't want to feel this. And then we're reaching for food, or we're trying to distract ourselves, or we're just creating this intensity within us that if we just allowed the feeling and we didn't fight it and we were just curious about it, it wouldn't have the power over us that it has when we're fighting it. So me, for example, when I start to feel anxiety, I'm like, oh, hey, anxiety, what's up? I know you very well. Come on in. Come sit at my table. Let's talk. And there's such a freedom to that, to know that no emotion is going to kill me and that I welcome all emotions to my table. I can just be with the emotion and just experience the energy moving around my body and not fight it. And just by doing that, it starts to release itself. And sometimes I don't even have to do the thought work on it. Just by welcoming it and being like, yeah, you're part of the human experience, it starts to dissipate. And so whatever you're feeling right now, just know that it's normal. Don't judge it. Don't make yourself bad for having a human emotion, but just allow it. And then you can be curious about it and you can look into your mind as to why you're feeling it, because it's only because of images in your brain or words in your brain that's causing you to feel that way. So that's the first thing. Don't fight what you're feeling. The other one is we need to learn to embrace the contrast. Right now, we're experiencing a contrast in life. And a lot of times we only want the highs without the lows. But we don't really appreciate the highs without the lows, right? So an example is, for anyone who has money in the stock market, you've been watching it go down. You've been seeing the contrast in a negative manner. But I want you to imagine that it was always going up, or that everything is always perfect and good and happy and amazing and no one ever gets sick. We would actually be a little bored with that scenario. We probably wouldn't appreciate our loved ones so much. We wouldn't really be excited when the stock market starts to go back up. We wouldn't be excited when things start to calm down a little bit. Because in that world, everything is always rainbows and daisies and unicorns and perfect. We came to this experience of life to experience the contrast. The contrast are ways that we discover more of what we want. Without the sadness, we don't understand happiness. Without the fear, we don't understand the peace and the calm. And so when things like this are happening, I'm just like, yeah, this is the contrast of life that I'm experiencing right now. Knowing that when things start to settle down and when things start to get back to normal and things start to elevate again, how fun it's going to be, how exciting it's going to be. And so learning to embrace the contrast is a way to relax your nervous system when you're experiencing the contrast that you don't want. Knowing that it's just a part of life. No one escapes this. No one. Another thing that I like to do whenever I'm in a challenging time is ask quality questions. Right now, I know many of you are asking poor quality questions. Questions like, what if I get sick? What if I lose all of my money? What if I'm not able to take care of my family? All of these really negative what if questions. And because of the way the brain is designed, it's going to seek the answers to whatever questions you ask of it. And so now you're asking really terrible questions and you're getting really terrible answers and you're freaking yourself out. This is a time that especially we need to expand our consciousness and we need to be asking high quality questions like, how can I use this experience for me? How is this going to grow me? What can I do in my life today to take care of myself, to take care of my family? Because again, your brain is going to answer whatever question you ask of it. So make sure you're asking the questions that you want the answers to. And then when you're relaxing, you're actually more creative. And so you're able to access possibilities and creativity that you cannot access when you're being chased by a bear. Or at least that's what you're feeling like in your mind, and therefore creating that sympathetic nervous system response. So one of the things that I did yesterday is I wrote down a list of questions to really inspire me during this challenging time. Again, how can I use this for me? How can I grow from this? How can I use this time of not traveling to really work on myself and to work on my home? And then I started to get excited. I'm like, wow, this is actually a time of elegance, of simplicity, of getting back to the basics, which actually really excites me. So then I start asking, okay, what do I want to clean up? What do I want to get rid of? Right? And so it just brought me back to this day and what I do have control over and how I can use this time for me instead of feeling like it's against me. So I want you to do that. I want you to ask some really high quality questions right now. Whatever you're scared about, whatever you're having a lot of anxiety about, find a question within that is going to serve you, that's going to give you answers that will move you forward even during these uncertain times. The other thing that I love to do on a regular basis, no matter what is happening, is meditation. Meditation is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And there are many different ways to meditate, right? I do not profess to be a meditation expert. For me, I love using my Muse headband. In fact, if you go to FrenchKissLife.com/Muse, you can see the one that I use. But that's one way that I like to meditate because it's giving me feedback as I'm meditating, which I love because I'm geeky like that. I also love doing guided meditations. There are many great ones on YouTube of just people who are guiding you through this experience that really helps you just relax. And there are guided meditations for many different things. There are meditations for relaxation, for creativity, for abundance, for health. Find a guided meditation that maybe really resonates with you and just try it. Some people prefer walking meditation where you just go out into Mother Nature and you just walk and you watch your mind as you walk. There's no wrong way to do meditation. Meditation for me is just a way for me to separate myself from my own thoughts and to just watch them. It's not about stopping your thinking because that doesn't work. Like the moment you're like, don't think that, that's all you can think. It's being a witness to your mind. It's being a witness to what is happening and looking at it as an observer instead of getting caught up in it. And so for me, meditation really helps me to relax. Another thing that you can do that doesn't cost a thing and you're doing it anyway is to focus on breathing. A lot of us are walking around and we're not even fully breathing. We're like holding our breath. But breath is life. And when I am super stressed, when I'm having a lot of anxiety, I like to use Dr. Weil's 4-7-8 breathing exercise. It's so simple. It really takes no time at all. And what you do is you exhale completely through your mouth, making a whoosh sound. So you close your mouth and you inhale quietly through your nose to a mental count of 4. And once you've done that, you hold your breath for a count of 7. And then you exhale through your mouth, making that whoosh sound to a count of 8. And that is considered one breath. And you just do that 4 times. And for me, when I'm done, I always say, all is well. And it's crazy how that simple technique just helps me relax. I turn on my parasympathetic nervous system, and all truly is well. So don't forget to breathe during this time. The other thing that really, really helps me is moving my body. And here's the thing with exercise, though, that I want to just caution you about is that high intensity exercise tends to turn on your sympathetic nervous system. And so for parasympathetic training, you want to focus on doing things like yoga, even certain types of dance, stretching, going for long, leisurely walks. But these are ways that we can relax ourselves. And it's also a way of taking care of ourselves too. And so for me, when I'm feeling anxious or feeling stressed, I love to just start moving my body. And the other thing that happens for me as well is like when I'm moving my body and I'm in my body, I'm not as much in my head. And things are always better when I'm not in my head. So how can you incorporate more movement into your daily routine? The next thing I want to encourage you to do is to focus on what you are certain about. The reason why we panic is because there's a lot of uncertainty in our minds. And the thing is, nothing is certain, right? It's like crazy how we think things are certain just because things aren't really changing outside of us, but nothing is certain. Like, God forbid, but I could get in the car to drive to the grocery store to get toilet paper, which there is none because everyone has panicked. And I could get in an accident. Like, nothing is ever certain, but we trick ourselves into thinking that it is because we love certainty. And so when we're faced with uncertainty, we literally start to panic. So the best way to deal with this uncertainty that we are facing right now is to focus on what we are certain about. In episode number 134, I talk about the habit of worry. And one of my favorite practices is to write everything down that I'm worried about. And then I create 2 lists. One I put on God's list. These are all of the things that I have no control over. Like I have no control over whether I will get the coronavirus. I have no control over what the stock market is going to do. But what I do have control over is washing my hands, social distancing, being smart, protecting myself, protecting other people. I also have control over how I think about money right now, how I think about the stock market, how I use my money, how I spend it. I also have control over what I do right now in terms of my work. I was talking to a colleague of mine a few days ago, and she's so freaked out. She's like, I can't even write. I can't even produce. I can't even get anything done. And I was telling her, I'm like, listen, when everyone's freaked out and everyone is panicking, this is when you need to relax more than ever. This is when we need leaders in the world, people that can help us calm down. And this is not about some fake calming down, like nothing's gone wrong, everybody's okay. It's not that, but it's having sensibility during this time. So for me, what that looks like is, helping the women in my community and my programs really use this time to thrive, to help the women in my programs not be inundated with so much stress and worry and anxiety that they feel paralyzed. Because this is going to pass, you all. It's just the nature of life. It is the contrast. I love what Abraham says. The harder the fall, the higher the bounce, right? And so for me, I'm thinking about the bounce. It's going to happen. It's going to come. And I keep focusing on the bounce. And so I plan to really ramp up what I do in my business because that I have control over. So I really encourage you to focus on what you are certain about and what you have control over. And that is your work. That's what you need to focus on. And for me, another thing that just came up as I'm talking about this, and it might be a point that I was going to make, and I might just jump into it. Let me look at my notes. Yeah, it is a point that I'm going to make. Focus on self-care. Unfortunately, it sometimes takes times like this for us to take a step back and be like, whoa, what is the state of my health? How is my well-being right now? And so self-care for several years now has been at the top of my list after I sort of neglected myself when Sarah got sick. And more than ever right now, you better believe I am doing all the things to keep my immune system strong, to really take care of me. And that's not just my physical health. That is also my mental health. Because without my mental health, I have nothing, right? And so I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and she was like, I am so glad I invested in Slim Chic and Savvy when I did, because I'm realizing that these are the tools that I'm going to need during this uncertain time. So for me personally, when I'm looking at where I'm investing my money and my time and my energy, self-care is at the top of the list, especially right now. Now, don't get me wrong. You all know I love beautiful clothes. I love handbags. I love traveling. Like I love those things and I love them unapologetically. And those things mean nothing to me if I don't have my own mental and physical well-being. And so, looking at the season in my life and where we all are right now, I'm thinking about this. Like, where do I want to invest right now? What is going to give me the biggest ROI? And for sure, it is in my own mental well-being, without a doubt. Because if I can navigate these times with my own internal certainty and not panicking and freaking out, I know that I'm going to come out on the other side so far ahead. So I want you to ask yourself, what would exquisite self-care look like for me right now? And for some of you all, this has been something in the back of your mind for a long time. You know you need to put yourself first. You know you need to stop neglecting yourself. And maybe, just maybe, this is an opportunity for you to really take care of you. I hate that sometimes things have to get so bad for us to wake up, but it's sort of the way the humans operate. But I hope that you'll use this as a time to really care for yourself. The other way that I'm relaxing during these uncertain times is I'm sticking with the facts. This is super important. There's a difference between fact and fiction. A lot of what is floating around the interwebs, it's not fact. It is fiction. And so for me, I just like to look at the facts of what is happening, and then I like to decide what I'm going to think about the facts. And the other thing I want to say about this is that we need to be mindful of what we're consuming right now. Personally, I like staying aware. I like knowing what is happening, but I like the facts of the situation, and then that's enough. I don't want to stick my head in the sand and pretend nothing is happening. Equally, I don't want to get caught up in the sensationalism of the media that I lose my grounding, I lose my footing. And so for me, it's just like, give me the facts, and then I get to decide what I want to think about them. And I will always choose a meaning that is empowering. Always. The other one along the same lines is I really recommend that you trade in the news for some comedy. Laughter and humor is so good for your immune system. It helps you tap into the parasympathetic nervous system. And so for me right now, I am watching so many comedies just to help me remember that I still have this day and there's still something to laugh about. There's still something to enjoy. My daughter also loves to send me all of these funny memes around what's happening right now, because humor is healing. It truly, truly is. And I feel like right now more than ever, we need more humor in our lives. So whether it's watching a sitcom or watching The Daily Show or hanging out with friends who make you laugh, make sure you're adding some laughter to your diet just to help you relax during these uncertain times. Another really powerful way to tap into your parasympathetic nervous system is gratitude. Gratitude is an opposition to fear. You can't be focused on what you're grateful for and equally be in a state of fear. Now, you can go between the two really quickly, but right now, there is still so much for us to be grateful for. So much. If we just look for it, it is everywhere. The fact that you're listening to this tells me that you're here, and that is something to be grateful for. The fact that you're listening to this on a phone or on your computer tells me you have some sort of technology, something to be grateful for. I hope you have running water. I hope you have food to eat. I hope that you have the basic necessities to sustain your life. And then anything above and beyond that is just the cherry on top. But sometimes when these kinds of events are happening in the world, we get so caught up in the panic. We get so caught up in the energy of anxiety and stress and worry that we fail to remember, wait, I still have a life. And right now, I still am blessed in many ways. But if I get caught up in the worry and the anxiety and the panic, I fail to see all of my blessings. And why this is so important is that what we're going for is feeling a little bit better during these uncertain times, right? We want to relax a little bit more. And gratitude, just by the nature of how it forces your brain to look for what's going well and right, starts to cause this domino effect of relaxation and good feelings in your body. And when you're feeling good and you're releasing all of these good hormones in your body, you are more creative, you are more open, you are more receptive, you are more in the space of possibility versus the problem. Gratitude just feels good. And there is always, always, always something to be grateful for. Whenever I'm doing this podcast and I'm talking about being grateful, I just look out my window and I'm like, whoa, I have the most gorgeous mountains right outside my window, the most beautiful trees. I have my dogs by my feet. I have food in my refrigerator. I do have toilet paper, thank God. Which these days, that is a miracle in and of itself. But seriously, like there's so much to be grateful for, even during uncertain times. And that's when you need to focus on it the most. So just take an inventory right now of what you are grateful for. What you focus on grows. And so if you're always looking for what's wrong or what's missing or what's lacking, that's all you can see. But I really believe during these uncertain times, it's going to be the people that can manage their energy that's going to come out of this in a much better place. And I want that for this community. I want it for everyone, that we can have that sensibility, that we can take good care of ourselves, and that we can be grateful even in the midst of uncertain times. Finally, what gets me through this is to know that we are humans and we are all interconnected and we're all in this together. I don't believe in individualism to the point that I'm not connected to other people. I know that my behaviors and the way I show up has an impact. I talked about this during a podcast I did on being a breath of fresh air. Like we have the ability to change the energy of rooms. We have the ability to change the energy in our homes. We can impact the conversations that are happening right now because we are in this together and we're all connected. And so you can use this as an opportunity to add more good energy into the world. You can use this as an opportunity to reach out to people and let them know that they're loved and that they're supported. Because at the end of the day, if one person suffers, it has a ripple effect in the world. Equally, when someone succeeds, that too has a ripple effect in the world, which is why I want to see us all succeed. Because we're all going to feel that energy. But also being honest when people are suffering, while we can manage our own minds around it, that energy is being put into the world. And so I just feel like everything that's happening right now is happening for humanity. I feel like it's a call for us to love ourselves more. I feel like it's a call for us to love our neighbors. I feel like it's a call for us to just love life more. And in ending, I will just say this. I'm always amazed by the spirits of the humans when we're going through uncertain times, when we're going through difficult times. It's almost like that's when it calls out our best. When we have our back up against the wall and we see our neighbors struggling, it's like, okay, let's do this. We're in this together. And so really embrace that energy right now. Use this time to connect with other people, to let people know that you love them, and to take exquisite care of yourself. Because this too shall pass, as my grandmother always said, and she's so right. But while we're in it, let's make the most of it. It is time for a j'adore. This is the part of the show where I get to share something that I love with you. And since we've been talking about relaxation and self-care and building up our immune system, I thought I would share with you a product that I absolutely love. And I stumbled upon this product in a really interesting way. Glenn and I both became sick with a cold when we were in France. And so we went into the pharmacy and there was a couple from South Africa. And of course, Glenn, being South African, strikes up a conversation with his fellow South African. And the guy told Glenn, he was like, you have to get this. You'll feel better in like 24 hours. And so we did. And we have been using it ever since. Every time we go to Europe, I stock up on it. But I just discovered recently that you can get it here in the States now. And it is called Baraka. Now, some of you are probably very familiar with it, but for those of you like me who'd never heard of it before, I want to introduce you to this product. It's very similar to Emergency, but better. And, I've talked to people who have actually done both. They've taken Emergency and they've taken the Baraka, and hands down, everybody says Baraka is way better. So Baraka is a little tablet that you just drop in your water, and it's full of vitamin C and zinc and biotin and B12. And it just gives you a lot of energy, and it's really great at boosting your immune system, and it's so good. So for me, the way I use it, if I ever feel like I'm starting to get sick, I will definitely take Baraka. I always take it when I am traveling. That's when I always have Baraka with me. And typically I'll do one a week, even when I'm feeling well, just because I love how I have mental clarity after I drink Baraka. I love the energy that I get from it. And I love knowing that I'm putting good things into my body. So during this time of uncertainty, if you want to boost your immune system, just head to FrenchKissLife.com/orange. Yes, I try to make it easy for you because Baraka is too hard to spell out. I butcher it every time I try. But go check it out. And whenever I'm recommending a supplement, I always make the disclaimer to check with your physician because our bodies are all very different. But I do believe that the ingredients of Baraka is good for everyone. So again, head to FrenchKissLife.com/orange. Have a beautiful day, everybody. I love you. And remember, it's all going to be okay. All is well. Practice relaxing during these uncertain times. I'll see you in the next episode. Cheers. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to dive even deeper into the French Kiss lifestyle, let's start with a makeover, a mindset makeover. You can download my free training, The 3 Mindset Makeovers Every Woman Needs, by visiting FrenchKissLife.com/mindset. Because after all, mindset is the new black.